Welcome to the show, everybody. Today I'm covering an album requested by a number of you, Transformer by Lou Reed on RCA Records from 1972. This is the second album since his departure from the Velvet Underground, and arguably the most iconic of his career. In many ways, this album represents the crossroads Reed was facing at this time in his life. He had just left one of the most influential bands of the 20th century, and his solo debut was a commercial failure. This album needed to be a success, as this was his second chance to be a rock star. He either had to go big or go home to Long Island and be a typist. Luckily, as fate would have it, David Bowie, along with his then lead guitarist Mick Ronson, came on board to produce the album. And the rest is history. What I think is crazy is that Bowie was initially intimidated to work with Reed because the Velvet Underground were a huge influence on his own music. I would imagine it's a lot like getting to work with your idol. The pairing couldn't have been better, however, as Reed wanted to tap into the pop realm that Bowie had cracked, and Bowie wanted to be near Reed's artistic songwriting. On the cover, you have a photo of Lou Reed staring blankly, almost like a ghost. According to the photographer Mick Rock, the look of the photo was actually an accident. While he was developing a print, his enlarger went out of focus and he loved the mistake. Once Reed saw it, he immediately knew that this was a cover for the album. And that's something I feel is a huge advantage when working in analog. I know it's so much easier and cheaper to work in digital, but the trade-off is that you miss out on some of these happy mistakes. Getting back to the front cover, what I just noticed is the title. I really like the subtle sort of out-of-phase look going on here. It's funny, in an interview I watched, Lou Reed said that life is all about the details, and that is certainly true of this album cover. What appears to be so simple at first glance becomes much more detailed on closer inspection. Flipping over to the back, this was originally the concept for the front. As you can tell, it's very provocative, but that's on purpose. Definitely playing on themes of androgyny and sexual ambiguity presented in many of the songs. By today's standards, let's face it, it's not that risque, but back then this was pretty heavy stuff. I mean, just look at the lump in his pants. Some people claim that this was a banana, which I find fitting because of the Velvet's debut album cover. Another thing I find funny is that while it's widely known that the man in the photo is Ernie Thormelin, a friend of Reed's, there's no mention of who the woman is. I happen to believe that it's Reed's friend, but nowhere can I find a definitive answer. It's pretty clear to me that it's a dude, but is it the same dude? I don't know. If you happen to know, leave a comment with a link. Now I want to talk about the Dynaflex thing on the label. I don't know much about it, so I'm thinking we'll ask Professor Watson and he'll tell us.
Dynaflex was introduced in 1969 by RCA Records as a way to cut costs while still being able to press on virgin vinyl. At this time, other manufacturers were recycling unsold records by removing the labels, melting them down, and restamping them. These were called reground records. But these records suffered from higher surface noise and sometimes contained impurities such as paper remnants stuck to the vinyl. By contrast, Dynaflex allowed RCA to continue to press on virgin vinyl by using less material, resulting in a thinner record, which not only saved on manufacturing but shipping costs as the records weighed less. RCA claimed that Dynaflex discs were less prone to warping and lay flatter on the turntable. It's debatable whether Dynaflex albums sounded better or worse than the same album pressed on heavier vinyl. The quality varies by release and is truly in the ear of the beholder. The Dynaflex name was phased out by the late 70s. Thank you for learning!
4 of the 10 tracks originally written during Reed's stint in the Velvet Underground, and in some cases even recorded by the band but remained unreleased until recently. These 4 songs include Satellite of Love, Goodnight Ladies, New York Telephone Conversation, and Andy's Chest, which was about the attempted murder of Andy Warhol in 1967. The song Walk on the Wild Side actually came about while Reed was working with a group of people that were putting on a play based on the book A Walk on the Wild Side by Nelson Algren. Reed started writing songs for the play, including the title song, before the group abandoned the project. He then rewrote the lyrics, putting in people he met at Warhol's studio, and it became one of the most successful songs of his career, if not the most. Walk on the Wild Side is one of my favorite songs, even since I was a kid. I love it, especially when the ladies start singing do 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 do. But my favorite part of the whole song has got to be the sax solo. It's so good. It really captures what I imagine New York City to be at this time. And the fade out is just perfect. It's like the song keeps on going on without you. You know what I mean? Now, if you're like me and you watch a lot of TV or web content, you start to see the same commercials over and over again. And as of this taping, an ad for the PS4 uses the song Perfect Day, which appears on this album. And I think it's just funny to think about. Can you imagine back when this album came out, a large corporation like Sony using that song? I just don't think that would ever happen. What's even more funny is that when Rolling Stone magazine reviewed this album back in '73, they said that this was one of the worst songs on the album. Well, Lou Reed had the last laugh as it became a #1 hit in the UK only 25 years later. If you want to get into Lou Reed, this is the album to start with. This is the one you need. This album is a staple of any record collection, and if you don't own it, you better turn in your digging card like pronto. But seriously, pick this album up. You won't regret it. There's no excuse. It's just great. So go get it. As always, thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and sharing the channel. You guys are awesome. I am your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side. It's somewhat well known that Lou Reed liked his scotch, and I thought, why not pair a delightful scotch cocktail with this album? It's called the Bellamy Scotch Sour, and you can learn to make it by clicking right here. Oh, you know what this episode needs? It needs some big explosions, some robots, and no plot whatsoever. And that would make... Oh wait, we're doing Lou Reed's Transformer. Oh, right. I thought, okay.